It's terrific to see a full house here today. It's terrific to see so many people committed to supporting people in family violence, to women who are victims of family violence. I've got no doubt we've got in the audience lots of policy makers. I know there are representatives here from Victoria Police who have that role, and I look forward to hearing from them about what we might learn and how we can do better in the future. There will be challenges today, of course. I've got no doubt that some of the people in the audience have experienced this, what we're talking about, family violence, in first hand. So what I want to do today, though, is to set the scene initially, just to talk very quickly about the national and international scene, talk about the Victoria Police experience recently, and then finally to wind up and issue you a challenge about what we want to achieve out of today. You don't need to be a scientist, you don't need to be a researcher to look around the world and see that we're experiencing more natural disasters of greater intensity than we've ever experienced before. We've got floods going on around us today in Victoria. We've had earthquakes in Christchurch. We've had severe flooding in Queensland, which continues. We've had our own fires. Internationally, we see tsunamis, earthquakes, all sorts of natural disasters. So, whether we like it or not, natural disasters are here to stay. My notes would suggest to me that in our lifetime, or in women's lifetime, you'll experience 1 in 6 of you will experience a natural disaster of some magnitude. Natural disasters we tend to think of as things like Black Saturday, but in reading the research that goes into forming the heart of today, I can't help but draw parallels with emergency service workers in all sorts of environments. Some of the women recount their partners suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I only have to look back on my people and the men and women of Victoria Police who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder to see direct relevance in some of the research already. We're focusing today on natural disasters, but I look at some of the recommendations, some of the suggestions, and they're equally valid for anyone who suffers from stressful environments. Of course, the other thing we need to talk about is family violence itself. Our research suggests that 1 in 3 women in Australia will suffer from family violence at some stage in their lifetime. The sad fact remains that women are safer on our streets at the moment than they are in their own homes, which is a dreadful indictment of a society that we would say is well advanced. Over the last 5 or 6 years, Victoria Police has seen our own figures which suggest a 300% increase in the incidence of family violence reported to police. Parallel, we see a 300% increase in the charges that we've actually laid in these circumstances. It's an enormous increase in commitment, and it's got flow-on impacts, flow-on implications for the support services that we rely on and for the courts themselves. At the same time, the actual incidents, the actual number of incidents we attend has increased 48%. So while the charges, while the intervention orders that we take out have increased by some 300%, the incidents that we attend have increased by 50%. What that suggests to me as a police leader very clearly is we've learnt a lot. We are a lot better at responding to family violence. But what it also suggests to me is there's plenty of room for improvement. And that's what the research will suggest today. That while we're good at getting better at responding, while we're getting better at reducing recidivism, there is still a lot we haven't thought of. And family violence implications from natural disasters is one of those. As a man standing here before you in uniform, it saddens me to think that one of the greatest challenges in dealing with family violence is our own concept of masculinity. And I saw that again and again in the research that I read. This was about men being men as they see themselves, as we see ourselves in response to disasters. The implications are that in public we're strong and fearless and not affected. But the implications for many women is when we come home we don't cope at all. The women invariably, that's the closest to these people, suffer. We see increased family violence, we see kids exposed to increased family violence, we see increases in alcohol consumption, in drug consumption, breakdowns of all sorts, reductions in employment. There's much to be seen, much to be learned from the research, even as small as it is. there's much more that we can do to explore this environment. One of the things that today provides us is an opportunity to speak out loudly against family violence and to challenge people like me. One of my other roles, of course, is being responsible for emergency management across the state. From the 1st of July, I'll be responsible for all the uniformed police in the state. And as part of that, we need to do better about our emergency management planning and response and recovery. Which leads me finally to the challenges today. Later on, you'll have an opportunity to break out into workshops. My challenge to you is to come up with actions, to come up with things that we can do, and to not restrict yourself to response, to what we would call the response phase, but to talk about planning, talk about preparation, and to talk about recovery. One of the simple things that's already suggested is that we might well prepare emergency response workers better to look for family violence indications, for people who provide support after the disasters, to be more cognizant of the factors, to look for the symptoms and to be better equipped to deal with it. One of the challenges of natural disasters is that it calls on many, many people in the community to respond. Typically we'll be seeing people who are attending as support workers, as care workers, who may never have worked in the field of family violence before. We're never going to be able to train all of those, and even if we could train them, we couldn't commit to continue to train them. But what we can do is prepare them. We actually can prepare brief training material, so when these people are called to volunteer in the future, so when they have the opportunity to contribute, they actually have some understanding of what it is they're looking for. They actually have the ability and the fortitude to ask the questions, to lift the rock, to actually say, I think I've seen a victim of family violence here. And if they don't know how to deal with it, to make contact with someone who does, or to provide the victim with that opportunity. Because this is one of the realities, is very often the victim themselves are not going to be able to reach out. Their circumstances will stop them, their relationship will stop them, the consequences will stop them. Then it falls to people like us to take that action on their behalf. So I challenge you, come up with some actions. I expect that when my people come back and talk to me about the conference, they'll actually have some opportunities and some things that we can do better in the future. So finally, in keeping well and truly in the 15 minutes, Nellie, which gives Nellie a smile, I'm very pleased to open this first Australian conference on family violence following a natural disaster. I look forward very much to hearing the outcome. Thank you very much.